Good morning. It's been about 2 months since I've made a video like this, and I got a couple stories behind it. Really, one long story. I just slipped on the ice. It's very snowy out, and I wanted to go for a walk because I've been making excuses. It'll be too cold, my face will get red, I'll look stupid. But that's all part of the story. So I'll start at the beginning. So about 2 months ago, I looked at my stats on YouTube. I've been posting some shorts, and I've been posting some long form videos. I think I did like 10 in a couple weeks, maybe 9 long forms, and then it was like 60 shorts because I would just cut some stuff out of the long forms and just repost them as shorts. And so that's pretty good output, and it felt natural. Like I didn't have to study or anything for specific for those things. I would just do my studying that I always did, and then I'd like have so many ideas in my head, I just had to get them out. And so I would get them out. I just walk out and start. That's why I called them a brain dump, because it wasn't a performance. It was literally just me rattling off what I was already thinking about. And so I got to a point where I was like, man, this is working. It doesn't take too much effort. The videos, I think they have points to them, but I started looking at the views and like click-through rate and retention and all that stuff. And I was interested in that. So I started to look into those. What did that mean? How do you get the numbers up per se? Went into ChatGPT, asked all those questions, and it said you need to do these things. And it's like, okay, I'm gonna practice those things. And so I started practicing how to write shorts in an engaging way. I felt like, my ideas were good, but I couldn't express them in a way that was engaging for people that weren't into philosophy or people that weren't into theology. I was speaking in books, and I feel like it was telling me to speak in like 1 or 2 ideas max. And so I tried doing that. I practiced for 2 months, really. I would get up in the mornings and I would try practicing how to do one idea with one metaphor, one tension, one hook, one contrast, and I would just write a whole bunch of these, and then I would sit down. To write one of them took about an hour, I would say, and then to sit down and actually record it, it had to look professional because I spent so much time on it, and so I wanted the proper lighting with the proper camera, which means that I had to curate the time. It wasn't convenient anymore. I had to send my kids to their room so that I could have time to do it. And since I had practiced writing every single word, now I had to perform the words. And so if it didn't sound believable, like it sounded scripted, I wouldn't like it. I'd have to do it again. And I would say the recording process for me to get one done took about 30 minutes. And then I would watch it back and I'd be like, I don't like this either. Like the idea is there. It's clean, but it just doesn't sound like me. But I'd post it anyway because I spent so much time on it. And I was like, I'll just get better at it. It'll take a while. I'm willing to look stupid for a while if it means that I progress. And so I kept doing it. Got to a point where I was doing it every single day. I would write, and then I fell into a situation where I had an abundance of time to write, but I didn't have any time to record because I have kids, I'm working. There was never a good time because this isn't the priority, right? Being on YouTube is not the priority. My family is. So I got to work for my family, got to spend time with my family. But it put me in a situation to where I was like, I have all this material that I want to get out, and I have no time to record it because everything has to be so perfect. The perfect lighting and the perfect audio and the perfect performance, and all this stuff takes time, you know? It just takes a lot of time. And I don't have it. I'm not in a season of my life where I have the amount of time that this takes. So I'd get frustrated and I'd get angry, you know, like mid-recording, when I'm just trying to express this idea, this simple one idea, in a way that is persuasive or is convincing, you know, trying to do the topic justice. My son would come down after about 15 minutes of me recording, and he'd need something, and he'd interrupt me. And instead of giving him grace and giving him what he needed, I'd get upset because, like, hey, you just interrupted me after all this time of me telling you, hey, I'm gonna do a video, I just need you to be upstairs for a little bit. But he'd come down and he'd interrupt me, and I would react with anger, right? And so this started to happen more and more. When I would go to work, I'd be frustrated because what's the point in learning more when I can't even perform the one idea that I had 3 weeks ago? I don't have enough time. And then also I would be in a place where when I would get back to the house, I'd already know that it was gonna take an hour or two for me to set everything up, get it the way I needed, then all the editing time. And so, like, I just, before I even started, I felt defeated, right? Like, I knew how much it was gonna take, and I just didn't feel like I was enough to do it. And so I'm arguing with God, God, I just need more time. Just give me more, I know I can do this. I know I can do this. Just give me more time. And I just get more and more frustrated. And it got to a point where yesterday, I tried doing my first long form. I had practiced it at work because I have a lot of time to myself. It's very much labor work, solo labor work. And so it didn't require much of me mentally. So I had a lot of time to practice. So I would practice front to back. I memorized the entire thing. And there's a very generous individual that I know. He gave me some equipment, some lighting, some audio stuff, a textured background, because he said he believed in me, and we'd set it all up. And I sat down, you know, I had about an hour. I sat down after having practiced so much for this moment. I set everything up, the lights, turned them on, set the camera up, sat down, made sure the audio was good. And 30 minutes had gone by. And so I'm stressed. It's like, oh, I only got like so much more time to do this. And so I'm like frustrated already. You know, when you're trying to talk about Jesus and you're trying to say it in a way that doesn't drop the ball. Like, when you talk about Jesus, you don't want to drop the ball. And there's people's souls on the line. You start to get frustrated when you can't perform. You know what I mean? So I sit down and I'm already frustrated. I'm like, this is a heavy topic. And I'm already frustrated. How am I going to talk about the grace of Jesus when I'm upset while I'm saying it? That doesn't make any sense. And so then I started to think, well, I'm not the guy for this then. Because the guy that talks about grace is the one that's supposed to be, you know, living it out. And I'm not living it out. I'm literally frustrated while I'm trying to talk about it. And so that frustrated me even more. And so I started to spiral, right? It's like, well, now I can't make the video. You know, I've just practiced for 4 or 5 weeks for this one moment. I got all this equipment given to me because someone believes in me. And here I am, I'm sitting in front of the desk. The camera's rolling, the audio's ready, and I can't perform. I can't do it. So, naturally, I spent the rest of the day upset. And, you know, just wrestling with God. My wife was so good to me. You know, she'd say something, I'd snap back because I'm an idiot. And towards the end of the day, you know, I come back to her like a sad dog asking for forgiveness. And, you know, she's amazing. So she's good. She loves me regardless. You know, God bless me with her. But the whole thing was like, this is so dumb. You know, the pressure to perform. What does that even mean, the pressure to perform? That's silly. pressure to perform. Like, I have to be perfect. What does it mean to be perfect? Nobody can be perfect. I have all this pressure on myself for what? And actually, I had a dream on February 10th that I want to read to you guys real quick. I remembered it, and I thought it was interesting. And so I'm going to read it, and then I'm going to explain it, and then we'll come to a conclusion here, because my face is turning red. One second. Okay, so here's the dream. All right. I was trying to meet Jordan Peterson, but while I was waiting, I was working out in hopes to impress him when he came in. I was doing it in front of the bar in public. He showed up, so I ran inside to get ready. All of the sudden, I was limping, and I had only a towel on. I passed Alex Hermosi, who was impressed with how hard I had worked. I got to the shower, and I was feeling real smug about the move of showing how hard of a worker I am. All of a sudden, I was in a room where Elon Musk had strapped me to a chair and had a big light hit my face. It looked like a vibrator gun with a big light on it. I couldn't help but turn the gun towards me, and it vibrated and got very bright and started shaking me, and I couldn't stop it. Elon started saying, "How do you know that I'm doing things for good? How do you know I'm on Trump's side? How do you know that I'm not doing this for other reasons? How do you know that I even have a wife?" And then he walked away while I was still unable to get out of the vibrator gun. Eventually it stopped, and the doctor had to stick my eyelids to my cheeks and all the way around my eyes, and he kept saying how bad it was. I went home, and my wife said she liked it with a concerned face, but then I said, "No, look how bad it is." And when I looked in the mirror, I couldn't recognize my own face, because not only had it changed entirely, it was bloodied and covered in rags. Okay. So the beginning of the dream was like, I need to impress. Jordan Peterson and Alex Hormozi are both some of the people that I look up to for different reasons, obviously. You know, Peterson is like, you know, this intellectual, manly, you know, stick to what you believe type of guy, but also back it up. And Hormozi is extremely practical. And so I've gone to them for different extremes. So like Peterson for the conceptual and Hormozi for the practical, and I've tried to find the union between the two. Peterson for the general and Hormozi for the technical, you could say. And so I've looked up to both of them. Both of them have become people that I looked up to, and when you look up to somebody, they have influence on you. And so my dream was saying, like, hey, what you're doing is you're trying to impress these guys. And when you try to impress people, you're doing things for the wrong reasons, because you're going to lose yourself. Elon Musk, I don't know the specifics, you know, it's a dream, they're wild, but Elon Musk is the richest man in the world. He's invented how many things? And he's been ultra successful in leading how many things? You know, he's like the capitalist golden man, whatever you want to call that. And so I think he was representing on a symbolic level the peak of entrepreneurship and the dangers of it. And what I think the dream was trying to tell me is, when you spend your time trying to impress the people that you look up to or impress the people around you, you're not going to be able to recognize yourself, because the sacrifice is you. You have to sacrifice yourself for the sake of impressing others. And so this pressure to perform, I think it's silly at the end of the day. You know, it's unneeded. God has created me in a unique way. Like, I am set apart, right? He has created me in a way that is different from everybody else. Doesn't mean better, it doesn't mean worse, just different. And he loves me for who I am. And so to put all this pressure on myself to perform as if that's the thing that moves the needle, it's like, how am I so arrogant enough to believe that God can't draw a straight line with a crooked stick? Like, he's not dependent on me being able to say the right words at the right time in the right way all the time, always. He can use my mistakes just like he can use my successes, because it's not dependent on me. And so if I'm acting like everything's dependent on me, of course I'm gonna fail. I had the lights, the sound, the textured wall in the back, the ideas were ready, I practiced, I was ready to go. So what was the problem? I thought it was dependent on me. And so what I've realized is, every time that I get into a place where I think that success is dependent on me, I step in my own way and I can't perform, I can't do it. Only when I step out of my own way, get out of my own head, and just let it flow through me is when I do well. And that's when I'm not thinking about it. That's when I'm not trying. It's not about trying, it's about letting go. You know, they had that cliche, let go and let God, right? Well, it's cliche for a reason, okay? The reason that you take it for granted as a cliche is because it's so true that you've become numb to it. If you haven't heard it, then don't let it become a cliche for you. But it's so true, right? It's like every one of us has some dreams, desires, goals, things that we'd like. And these things can become really heavy because the ideal becomes the judge. And the judge has a heavy gavel. And it's a lot, man, especially when you have not much time. Like, I'm wearing this right now. This is an Amazon jacket. And when I'm at my best, you know, I'm doing what it takes to provide for my family. When I'm at my worst, I feel like, is this all I am? Like, I can't provide for my family. I have to get a job that I don't really care about and do things that aren't my dreams just so that I can put food on the table. What about these other guys? You know, I get into the comparison game. Those guys can perform. Those guys on the internet, you know, they have lots of clicks. Their CTR rate is through the roof. Their retention rate is, you know, they're entertainers, they're storytellers. They're good at that. They can perform anytime you need them to. You want it sad, you want it happy, you want it angry, you want it patient, you want it prideful, you want it humble. They got you. And here I am in an Amazon jacket with 2 hours a week trying to make it work, and I can't do it. That's when I'm at my weakest. But you know, my wife told me, because she's freaking awesome. She said, where you're weak, God is strong. And you know, you have to believe that. You have to believe that, again, God can draw a straight line with a crooked stick. That he's not dependent on your perfection, and that Jesus is the only one that could be perfect. And if you think that you have to be on your A game all the time for things to move forward, then you're holding the weight of the world because you think that everything is on your shoulders. You know, give it to God. Trust him with it. Trust means to share the weight with him, to lean on him. And when you lean on him, life gets a little bit lighter. And so, yeah, I think that's the message. It's like the pressure to perform it's real, and it's heavy, and it's crippling. But there's a version of you that doesn't care about what other people think. There's a version of you that doesn't judge yourself for not being good enough. There's a version of you that just does things because they like to do them. Like when you were a kid, you didn't care. You knew that the Father had protected you and you trusted in your dad. And so the reason that the kid can play is because the Father has it handled. And we can do that today. We can do that now. All we gotta do is trust the Father. And then we can be like kids again. That's why it says to have a childlike faith. Not a childish faith, a childlike faith. Because when you trust in the provision of your Father, life becomes a game again. and it's weightless and you can play. So shake off the pressure to perform. Just get rid of it. Just throw it away. Because you're never going to be perfect. There's always going to be someone better than you. There's always going to be a reason that you can't do things. Just do what you got. Do what you love. You know, no expectations. Try your best and just keep moving forward.